Project Spartan. Welcome to this presentation. Now, I'm making this in case you have missed the initial start to the program and the presentation that I did to introduce the program. So what I'm going to do is talk you through just step by step on the different stages, my journey, the nutrition side, results, and really go through some of the starting points that I would say are quite common as well, especially the nutrition side of things. I'm clicking on the wrong buttons there. Let me slideshow. Okay. So really the idea of this presentation is to just talk through my story to begin with and how I got my results and what steps you need to do to change. First thing I would say is everyone is individual. And what I am encouraging you guys to do, I suppose, is create that lifestyle change, although it's a bit of a cliched word to use, is to think about the different areas. So from a mindset point of view, your habits, your rituals, your beliefs, your prioritising health within your life, and then also, obviously, the specifics of the training, the specifics of the nutrition, how we're fitting them into your life week to week, getting the results that you want, and then obviously maintaining them long term so you can continue to see results through the long term as well. Now, philosophy wise, the way that I view things is that if you want to eat, it's not a case of, okay, I'm never going to drink again, I'm never going to have cake, crisps, anything that you feel that more processed foods again. I want you to enjoy your life and be happy. So the point really is to say, okay, let's get you healthy and lean and start to look at creating some positive habits and understand nutrition and the training, get everything built into your life. Maybe don't go too extreme to begin with. I encourage, if anything, to make some small adjustments little by little, week by week, which you feel happy with, so we don't revert back to your old negative habits, so we start to create positive ones. A big part of this really is to explain that with the alcohol, the processed food, caffeine, or that side of it, not a case of necessarily taking it out forever, but having it at certain times, earning the right to have it through having an 80-90% healthy lifestyle, and having it on the odd occasions if you feel that you're not going to, that's going to act as a catalyst to revert back to normal. As I said, everyone's different. So first off, I'm just going to start with a very brief overview of my journey and how I got my results and where I was at and what has happened through the process. There's a picture of me on the right there and some results of the guys that have done the Project Spartan program and the types of training that we do. So this was me probably about four or 5 years ago now. This picture was taken around Christmas time, and I was about 14, probably a little bit over that. I was probably about 14.5 stone, around about 14% body fat, maybe even 50. I'll probably say I was actually I was probably a higher body fat from that. I don't think that's accurate. Probably about 15%, 16%, and yeah, I wasn't feeling great. I was doing a lot of long distance cardio. I was trying to eat less and consuming nutrition wise a fair amount of dairy, whey protein shakes, pasta, oats. Now, not to say that these can't be used in a different way, and the other thing I want to, I suppose, communicate is this is my particular way, my philosophy, my training program, which I believe in, and it gets great results. But there are many different approaches, so this is just my way based around health. So encouraging you to develop a lifestyle based on health, because if you're aiming towards health, then you'll lose body fat to a certain degree anyway. It'd be a natural side effect. So a healthy body doesn't always hold on to body fat. So that's really my message, is to focus on this idea of health. So back to where I was at that time, training wise, I was doing machine weights, I was working at a commercial gym at that time. I was actually a trainer although I felt like I wasn't in the best shape possible. Training wise, as I said, I was doing machines. I was doing using cardio machines. I wasn't really, I didn't really have a structure. I don't feel at that point I discovered really how to get results. And as a lot of commercial gyms, you only have to look around. Let's be honest and realistic about this. 90% of people around that don't really get the results that they're looking for, and that is related to specific nutrition, specific training, understanding of those elements, and more than anything, the mindset side, which is huge, and your beliefs, which are built around that. So, cut a long story short, I was pretty stressed out around that time. I was in a bad place. I was sleeping terribly. I had heart palpitations. I'd been to the doctor. I was suffering from stress a lot. I wasn't sleeping properly. Which is fairly common for a lot of people under stress with their work. I had a little business at the time which had some big contracts and was struggling. I had an outside business aside from working at the commercial gym, and really that stress had led to all manner of medical conditions and weight gain. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that stress is a major part of it, and realising that stress can have a huge effect on your hormone and your endocrine system, your hormonal system, and that can have a knock-on effect for your body storing body fat, especially in specific areas, which I'll go on to. Now, I've reached a stage where mentally, I suppose it come to a head one night when I've been taken into. I woke up. I had this several nights in a row. Woke up in the middle of the night. I was pouring with sweat, and I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. And so what happened is we called the ambulance. The ambulance was called. The guy, ironically, who the paramedic used to come to my spinning class at the gym I worked at, and it was, I suppose, there's always a certain amount of comedy in any situation, even when you feel like you're going to exit the planet, so to speak. So there was me in my pants and pouring in sweat, and supposed to be a fit and healthy trainer, and I was a bit chunky and not in great health and looking like I was on a heart attack. And there's the guy who used to come to my spinning class. So from there, I was taken in to the ambulance. I was plugged into ECG, all the different machines, and I felt like that was it. I thought my time was up. I felt like I had a heart attack coming on. Cut a long story short, it built up. I didn't have nothing happened as such. It was just all related to stress, anxiety, and I was taken to hospital. Had all my readings done, and I was fine. So. From a stress point of view, it's important to recognise that your health is a huge part of your life, and until you prioritise that, until you realise that looking after yourself, and this is the thing about life, is that everyone has stresses in terms of their work. People are business owners. There's a lot of pressure in sales and all sorts of jobs, and not just with that, but the home life as well. But I think it's just important to recognise that and look at, okay, how can I manage that stress within my life, which I wasn't doing. My nutrition was bad, my training wasn't right, and mentally I was in a bad place. So something had to change. You have to be mentally in that place when you're ready to change, and I think that was my moment when I'd hit kind of rock bottom. I thought, right, I need to do something now. I need to make some serious changes, and that's what I started to do. I started to read up on nutrition and training in depth, researching all sorts of subjects related to nutrition and the liver, and how the liver processes certain foods, the effects of sugar, alcohol, caffeine on the body, on the hormonal system, and I suppose the biggest thing I took from that was the importance of hormones within the body. The endocrine system is crucial, and it makes such a difference to where we store body fat. Your average guy could still be training really hard and eating what he thinks is right, and still not get the results related to his hormones, which supersede everything. So being aware of that is really important as a starting point. Now, one of the films that I watched around that point was Food Matters, and it's an awesome film which I really encourage you to watch. Let me see if I can get it up here for you. Let me get my... okay, let's just get it on YouTube. Okay, so just have a quick watch of this, just to give you an idea of really what it's about. And I did this in my presentation the other day.
One of the best things terrorists could do is just build more fast food restaurants, maybe add another pharmaceutical company, have a couple more infomercials, and encourage people to eat the way they eat now. And everybody's going to be dead in 100 years. They can just walk right in, don't have to do a thing.
One quarter of what you eat keeps you alive, and 3/4 of what you eat keeps your doctor alive. I used to get high for a living, eating all the bullshit food that's on me.
Cancer rates going up, heart disease going up, stroke going up.
We're poisoning ourselves with highly processed, nutrient-depleted foods.
One of the major problems is what we do to the soil and the air and the water and everything we take in our food.
We, for whatever reason, decided we're going to spray everything with every kind of pesticide, herbicide, larvicide, fungicide. We decided we're going to genetically modify things we don't know anything about. Can we actually improve what has already been created? And the answer is maybe, but not the way we've been doing it.
If you want to know what's wrong, look down at the table. It's staring back at you.
Think of it as chronic malnutrition, because that's what's going on.
But if we think we're going to go to the doctor and get a pill for everything, we've missed the whole point. We have been taught our whole lives to be consumers of modern medicine, which is pharmaceutical medicine. Good health makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't make a lot of dollars.
Now, the drug industry has every right to make money, no question about that at all. The ethics, I think, need to be very closely watched.
What the pharmaceutical companies are doing may not necessarily be in the interest of our population.
You can be as sincere, and you can be sincerely wrong.
Approximately 106,000 Americans die from pharmaceutical drugs each year. And these are people who took the medication as directed.
There's a lot more turning to alternatives, because what's being done beforehand doesn't work.
There is no magic bullet, but there is a lifestyle change that reverses serious chronic disease. It's cheap, it's simple, it's safe, it's effective.
The solutions are here. They've always been here. Every single person in the world, every culture, every language, every person in the world knows it. You are what you eat. Food does matter.
It's a choice. You don't have to be sick.
Okay, so really that gives you an overview of, after watching that film, I'll be honest with you, it made a huge difference to my outlook on nutrition and food, and starting to view it as fuel. And I suppose if you think of a car and you think of the fuel that you're putting into it, it's kind of like putting diesel in a standard, unleaded car. It's just not going to work properly. So, and it will have so many knock-on effects. So I'm really stressing the importance of the impact and power of food that can have on your body, because that will have a knock-on effect for the muscle that you build and the fat that you lose, which is the goal of the program. So it's a big area. So I really encourage you to watch Food Matters. It's a great film. There's quite a few other films which I would suggest as well, but it's a really good starting point. Now again, obviously I'm stressing the importance of nutrition and the impact that it makes. Not to say that training isn't crucial, and what you do will start to sculpt and create the body that you will start to create, but at the same time the nutrition is really important, so understanding that. Now one thing I would say, which this will sound strange, but you probably know an element of nutrition already in terms of the fundamentals. You know, if I say to you, okay, is cake going to do you a lot of good from a fat loss point of view compared to some vegetables and some good quality meat, then you probably know, to a certain degree, you'll know the answer to that. And my point is that a lot of the time it's not always the fundamental basics that you don't know. It's the change in behaviours, it's the habits, it's what you relate that feeling to within you, and associating that with creating that next step of wanting to change. So although nutrition can be very specific, also training can, with the nutrition side of things, to start you off, it is really a case of, okay, if you just started to cut back on the elements which you know are not going to be great for you, i.e. The high processed sugary foods, the vast amounts of caffeine, because caffeines have a huge effect on adrenal glands, depending on the quality of caffeine you consume. Obviously alcohol is going to be struggle to be processed by the liver, and so you know these are things you will know already. So starting to make these initial changes will make more difference than anything, and then we can drill down into the specifics of the nutrition, the how much, the whys. Everyone's different. Convenience, you know, on the road, planning, preparation, prioritizing, that side of things. But number one is just start to realise that you probably know some of the things you shouldn't be having or should have less of to begin with. So this is a little bit more on the specific side of things, and think about cleansing the body. My approach isn't related to weight loss, it's about health and introducing eating more of the foods which are healthier to the body, i.e. The greens, the vegetables, and you know, a lot of the time obviously you may not enjoy them, so it's finding ways of making them convenient and tasty so that you do start to like them. Think more about what you can do rather than what you can't do, and this is really about, you know, losing weight, as in cutting back on completely eating any food, starving yourself, and not really detoxifying the body as such, or detoxifying the liver. And it just talks about cellular cleansing through nutrition and through the foods that you eat. You know, the superfoods, the green leafy plant-based foods, or if you're not going to have that, then have at least juicing or a greens juice. That'll make a big difference. Now, eating your different macros, so your proteins, your fats and your carbs, hopefully, well, we'll go through the specifics of each, but obviously with your protein side of things, your meat, your fish, we'll talk about dairy in a second, but consuming your protein from good quality sources will make a big difference. How that animal is reared, what it's eaten, how happy it is, what natural environment it's been in. You know, organic, grass-fed is going to be different from an animal which has lived on a factory farm, you know, and has not had a life which is natural to its surroundings. So this will make a big difference as well. So that is what I want you to think about. Think about aiming towards health rather than losing weight. Think about fat loss rather than weight loss. And this again will start to help in terms of building muscle and losing body fat. And then we can be more specific later on. Now, in terms of shopping side of things, now, one thing on the left hand side, I've got pictures of coconut milk and hemp milk. I would encourage you not to have dairy in terms of the dairy that's available in the supermarket. The dairy really these days, especially the stuff you buy in most supermarkets, is heavily pasteurized. So what that means is, to begin with, the grass, the cows aren't always eating their natural food, which would be grass. They're eating grains because it's cheaper for them to feed that. Then the milk is pasteurized, it's heated up, and it loses any of the good bacteria which is actually in it, which is good for gut health and your body can absorb and use for protein, etc., etc. And what we're kind of left with is this, it's really like this dead bacteria that's with milk, and it ends up kind of just being sugary milk, which there's no calcium in it. The calcium, you're much better to actually eat the grass that the cows would be eating to get the calcium from that. So it's a little bit of a myth, really. If you were going to have dairy, I would encourage, generally speaking, to have raw dairy. Again, depends on the individual, depends on your sensitivity to lactose as well. You know, a lot of people are lactose intolerant, don't always realise that. So that may be a factor. A lot of nutrition is complicated because everyone's slightly different in their genetic makeup. But this is a good starting point. So shopping essentials for me would be coconut milk, hemp milk. I would encourage you to have more fats in your diet. So obviously your nuts, your coconut oil, what else? Olive oil are better to have on like salad. So using those fats from that area, we'll go on to like salmon and things like that in a minute, will make a big difference. So coconut oil's on the right there. So these are some things that I would have in your cupboard. You can use the nut butters in smoothies. And then you've got the herbal teas, like wheel teas, is again, they're going to be a little bit more expensive, but they're great. And then have some snack bars. Now, again, these are going to be a bit sugary. I'm not a massive fan of whey protein in my approach. I don't take it, I don't encourage the guys to take it. For me, it's still a byproduct of milk. I don't encourage people to have milk generally. So, you know, if you were, then again, I would go down that grass-fed route. That's just my belief in that area. So I tend to have like Sun Warrior, rice and pea protein, which is one that I take and encourage the guys to take. But these are just some essentials to get you started off. So how much protein should you have? Now, this is a guide, okay? So we're looking at weight minus body fat equals your lean body mass. And then 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. So example, for me, I'm probably about 168 pounds, minus about 11% body fat. It's about 157 grams of protein to maintain, you know, a decent level of muscle. At this stage, you know, I could increase that if I'm looking to add mass, but at this stage that would be a good starting point, a good benchmark. When should you have carbs? Now carbs, obviously, I'm not going into this video on specifics. I'm talking about your carbs as in your starchier carbs. So your potato, potato obviously is not going to be, for me, is easier to digest than your heavily processed grain, like from your bread. Pastas, again, I would encourage you to avoid those pastas. But this is very, very dependent on your genetic structure as an individual, your carb source. There's some good carbs to have, like quinoa, sweet potato. These are the types of things where I would get your carbs from. Slightly, the sweet potato is slightly more similar to a vegetable. So we'll go through, as we go through the program, we'll go through the specifics of carb, but this is just a general overview. So having those heavy starchy carbs, I would keep them out until you start to get your body fat down. So I'd cycle them in dependent on body fat, and then as we get lower, we'd have them, you know, more often. This does relate to your genetic structure as well. You know, where it says 10 to 12% every 7 days. If you are if you're an ectomorph and you're more thin, tall, slender, then you know you're going to have more carbs. Your carb intake is going to be heavier. Whereas if you are more of an endomorph and you hold body fat easily, then again I would keep those heavy starchy carbs lower until you start to get your body fat down. So I would always measure progress on body fat, body composition, how you feel, your energy levels, how your skin is, rather than against the weight. You can use the weight as, you know, a starting point, but I don't always encourage that. I personally encourage those lifestyle changes, and you know, if you want to pop on the scales every so often, then cool. But I would measure it by body fat, body composition, and that side of things. Okay, so this is a little bit about why we hold body fat where we do, and then again, so chest suggests like high estrogen, so often with high insulin and low testosterone. So insulin is like the carrier of the glucose around the body to the liver and the muscles, or can be stored as fat. And a lot of the time, people are consuming too much of the heavy processed foods, the sugars, and it is getting stored as fat throughout the body, rather than getting used as energy or to build muscle. So yeah, high insulin is quite common. Low testosterone is common from the foods we're consuming. The lack of strength conditioning training that we're doing. Love handles are, you know, when you're holding fat around the sides of your body, then that will make it. Again, that suggests high levels of blood sugar imbalances. So you're eating maybe sugary or carby foods every so often. That's spiking your blood sugar levels. And then, so belly is also related to cortisol. It doesn't actually, oh yeah, it does say on there, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so your belly is also related to high cortisol. So cortisol is your stress steroid hormone, and we need that cortisol to, as our primitive self, you know, that fight or flight, to actually take action and do something and get up in the mornings. But at the same time, we tend to have too much of it nowadays, so that's why we store it in the belly. Now, again, that's like low growth hormone. So really the idea is to lower estrogen, increase growth hormone and testosterone. There's specific ways to do that, and you guys that are on the program now, in the manual that I gave out, I will go through that. So yeah, again, it's very related to this hormonal balances. And if you think in the morning, when most people wake in the morning, then they don't really have a lot of energy. And ideally, we want to start creating a lifestyle where you do have energy in the morning. So your cortisol gets you up and you do have energy. It's called circadian rhythms, where what's happening these days, people get up sluggish and they gradually have more energy towards the end of the day, and then they can't sleep, rather than having energy at the beginning of the day, and then it gradually leveling off as you go to bed in the evening. So thinking about the endocrine system, hormonal system, will really make a difference to where you store body fat, how you feel, and what changes can be made. Now this goes on to the importance of sleep, and how having sleep and the quality of your sleep will make a big difference. There's different research on this, but I found that since changing my health and the nutrition, that the quality of my sleep is good. You fall off to sleep very easily. Your mind is at ease. So it's good. I want to encourage you to, get your 6 to 8 hours sleep as much as you can, and when you go to bed and how you're going to bed and your principles around that can also make a big difference. If you're watching television, you're stimulating yourself before you go to bed. These are all little things which you may feel are insignificant, but will make a big difference. Okay, so this goes into a bit more about the specifics of the different body types for guys. You've got your ectomorph, your mesomorph, your endomorph, and the goals that we would have. I mean, ectomorph, again, if you're thinking about like an endurance athlete, your long distance runner, which quite a few ectomorph body shapes are, then they could consume more carbs, 30 up to 30% of quality